And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, a neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley has been without internet access for 2 weeks because of copper wire theft.
You know, if we really wanted to stop that, it wouldn't be that hard because it's just a handful of people who are doing all of it. And if you were to just throw them in jail and let the neighborhood know you're not going to put up with it, you would probably get them to knock it off real fast.
Well, we don't want to criminalize that behavior.
You know, let's criminalize catalytic converters. Let's criminalize copper.
No, because then we'd have the internet. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a Republican political strategist who you can follow online on X at the Thomas Guide. John Thomas, welcome.
Hey, John, good to be with you as always.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. You know, the old Democratic governor of the state of Louisiana, Edwin Edwards, used to say when he was running against David Duke for the governorship, the only way I'm going to lose this election is if they catch me in bed with a dead girl or a live boy, because he was that confident that he was going to win the election. It seems when you watch cable news these days and all the focus is on Jeffrey Epstein and the Jeffrey Epstein files and those sorts of things, that the Democrats in Congress are of the belief that this is what will finally knock Trump out, that they've gone after him every way, shape, and form that they can. Nothing has worked. But if they just dig deep enough into the Epstein files, they're going to find something that involves Donald Trump and a 15-year-old girl. And I'm sitting here watching these people on TV thinking to myself, okay, now that we've seen all of these intelligence agency heads on cable as commentators, whether it's Comey or Brennan or McCabe or whomever, if those people had that kind of dirt on Donald Trump back during the first term or when Joe Biden was president, there is a 0% chance they would have sat on it over the course of 3 election cycles. If that existed, we would know about it by now, and they're tilting at windmills with this story. Your thoughts?
That's exactly it, John. We know for a fact that under Biden's admin, they would have leaked it. And that's because the stakes, quite frankly, are a lot higher for a presidential election than they are for a midterm. And so the fact that Joe Biden and the Democrats controlled these 3-letter agencies and nothing came out about Trump tells us there's no there. I think the issue you've got is that, President Trump in part campaigned on re-election to release the files, and then he did an about-face, and the Democrats are trying to lock on to some kind of issue because they really don't have a message themselves. I think what we're going to find, John, is that we're going to learn nothing new about Donald Trump as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein. And my read on the matter is that when Trump got into office and he looked or heard or was read into the files, that it turns out that there's a lot of private citizens, some big names, that corresponded with Epstein that aren't Trump, that have asked Trump not to drag their names through the mud but by getting released in these files. And Trump probably thought, hey, the collateral damage isn't worth it. But now that the files appear to be coming out, it's going to be like Al Capone's vault. There's no there. And then, of course, the Democrats will try to allege a cover-up and all this stuff. But I don't think it'll move the needle for the voting public either way.
I think you're onto something there because you look at some of the names that have popped up in relation to correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. And one of them was Larry Summers, who was an official in the Clinton White House and has worked for Democratic presidents for many years, was an educator over, I think it was Harvard University, a mover and shaker in the financial world. And it's not been alleged that he had sex with children. It's not been alleged that he did anything illegal. But you see emails with conversations that make you wince because you know who he's talking to. And he may or may not have known all the details of what Jeffrey Epstein was up to, but to just see casual correspondence between someone who is a respected figure and someone like Jeffrey Epstein, a reprobate, it just makes you look at Larry Summers in a different light. If you're a rich person who has donated a lot of money to a lot of politicians and you didn't do anything illegal, but you're looking at what's happening to Larry Summers' reputation just from having an association with someone who did something bad, you're thinking to yourself, I don't want any part of this. And if I gave the guy in charge of the country money and I can get him on the phone and say, don't force me to hire a crisis counselor. Don't force me to go through this and have my kids go through this. Just let sleeping dogs lie.
That is 100%, I believe, what's going on. Because if you're a high-profile figure, I mean, there's collateral damage. Not just, of course, your reputation gets sullied and can have a whole positive career ruined, much like Larry Summers. But you're right. Your kids. It's not just a matter of, oh, I've got to hire the crisis managers, John. I mean, crisis managers are not magicians. The reputation could be sullied. They might have to step down from boards. The charities that they're involved with might distance themselves. It creates so many secondary effects. And the thing is, I don't believe, you and I know politics well. We know candidates and office holders well. I don't believe that it was just one person that went to the president saying, hey, this is problematic for me. I think it was a wave of people that went to the president and said, this is problematic for me. And so the president said, you know what, let it go. Just like he decided not to prosecute Hillary over emails, it's kind of the same thing. What does it achieve? But the Democrats were grasping for straws. They need a controversy and something to lock onto. But the joke of it was, John, where were these Democrats demanding transparency and releasing of the files when Joe Biden was president? Oh, they didn't care at the time because Donald Trump wasn't in power.
One of the issues that caused Trump to win the election and Biden to lose is the cost of living. People thought inflation was killing them. The economy was a sore spot, not just for Biden, but for Kamala Harris when she became the Democratic nominee. And Trump really drove that home every opportunity he had. You look at polls right now, and people are very uneasy about the state of the economy. They're very worried about their own financial situation, and they're worried about the future, particularly with AI looming. And we know that there will be job losses as many jobs are replaced by technology, and people will be displaced from their industries, and they'll have to learn how to do something new. When you look at those numbers in the context of the results, the election results from this November's election, and then the upcoming midterm elections, how important is it for Trump to change those perceptions if he wants Republicans to remain in control of Congress?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. Now, I don't think the Democrats really have an answer to the problem, but they are pointing to the party in power that typically gets beaten up in the midterms for any perceived problems going on in the country. Look, Trump has to prove to Americans that tariffs are bringing down costs, bringing back jobs. The challenge with some of these policies that the president's been driving is I do think that you're going to see re-onshoring of jobs, but some of these plants and manufacturers might require 2, 5, 10 years to really feel the effect. So I think the president's also been focused a lot on foreign policy, which is important. In fact, second-term presidents typically think about their legacy in terms of foreign policy. But the average everyday American who's going to be voting in the upcoming midterm cycle doesn't care as much about peace in the Middle East as they do the cost of their housing, the cost of their drugs, and the cost of their groceries. And if the president and the Republicans don't speak to that in a meaningful way, given the tight nature of the balance of power in the House, Republicans will lose. And if they lose in the midterms, John, it is effectively the end of Donald Trump's presidency.
And he seems to be aware of that because he's trying to find every angle possible to keep control.
Yeah, he gets it. I mean, Trump gets it. He's going to be actively involved in campaigning in the midterm cycle. He's not just campaigning, but he's raising money for the Republicans. He'll get involved in particular races where he thinks he can be a benefit. Trump gets it. I think that the challenge is keeping focus. When you're commander in chief, there's a lot of things that pull away your attention, but he's got to refocus on the economy. And the president has credibility and trust with the American voting public on the economy when he speaks to it. And consequently as well, the Democrats have no message except for, you saw with Mamdani in New York, they speak to the issue, but they don't have any solution or really any message. So I think there can be a contrast, but the president's got to drive it.
We're speaking with John Thomas, who you can follow on X at The Thomas Guide. John, let's shift gears and talk California for a second, because I think going into the gubernatorial election in 2026, many people, most in fact, were anticipating former Vice President Kamala Harris jumping in and becoming the front runner and causing all the candidates, particularly the Democratic candidates, to find other offices to run for. She ended up deciding against that. And after she decided against it, I think there was even more anticipation that other bold-faced names within the Democratic Party would jump in. The focus then turned to U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, who was raising his profile, spending money in the Prop 50 campaign, featuring himself in the ads, certainly created a stunt at the Kristi Noem event in Los Angeles that generated national attention. But his polling numbers, when you would include him with the other candidates, were never impressive. He was always finishing somewhere in the middle of the pack, which, if you're a U.S. senator hoping to jump in and become a number one, that certainly never materialized. He ended up opting against running for governor. Before Kamala Harris even made her decision, the state attorney general, Rob Bonta, who's now knee-deep in scandal involving former Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao and the Dong family, he decided against running himself. Why is it that we have this plum job, the governorship of the largest state in the union, and no Democrats that are regarded as being top-tier candidates seem to want it?
It's a great point. I think a few things. First of all, to actually be competitive or be in a dominant first place in the state of California, you have to enter the race with real name recognition. And most of these candidates that you and your listeners know, the average voting low information voter probably doesn't really have a strong opinion of either way. Padilla never really ran a big statewide ad campaign to get into office in the first place. And so you don't start the race with any major advantage, and then the amount of effort that it would take for a Padilla or somebody who's not scandal-ridden to raise the resources, the $50, $100, $150 million necessary to ensure victory in the state's expensive media markets is, I think, just a hurdle too high, maybe a little bit too much work. So consequently, you just see this vacuum left out there. You just saw Tom Steyer, the billionaire, throw his hat in the ring, and that's Laura. Look, nobody gets excited about him. Climate change, although a good Democratic talking point, is low on the Richter scale for even the most Democratic of voters right now. But Tom figures he's the only one with money to get out his message, so why not? But I still don't. I think we might not have seen the main character running for office yet. And it's amazing in a state as blue as this, with so many Democratic elected officials and rich Democrats, that you don't see a more competitive landscape.
Eric Swalwell, the congressman from the East Bay, is expected to jump in the race. What kind of candidate do you think he'll make?
Well, I mean, didn't we see him run for president? And he dropped out before he even got to the Iowa caucus in his own home state of Iowa. I don't see the pathway there. He might have a little bit of popularity in certain niche areas. I don't think he has the ability. I went and checked his FEC forms, John, and I think the most he's ever raised was $3 or $4 million a cycle, which is a far, far cry from the 50, 100, 150 you need. So I think really for him, it's going to be a flash in the pan and really a positioning more for a 2028 presidential run, and likely not governor of California.
What is Rick Caruso going to do?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I was on CNN last night with our friend, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson, who represents Tony Thurmond, another candidate in the race. And Dave said that Caruso actually was polling the mayor's race in LA as he's having second thoughts about the governor's race. I don't know that I buy that. I think Rick's going to run for governor. I think that's all but decided. I think he'll be competitive because he has the resources to get his message out. I think he's considered a little bit more moderate and feels a little safer than crazy loons like Katie Porter. But I'm not so sure in a blue state like California, they're going to be thrilled about a former Republican, former Bush guy, rich real estate developer running for the state highest office. With that said, he's competitive. You can't ignore somebody who can stroke a check and dominate on California's media market. Half the battle, John, when you're running statewide for office is just getting voters to remember your name.
I don't know any Democrat, any real Democrat here in California who regards Rick Caruso as being one of them. And of the Republicans I know who are following what he's doing, they don't regard him as an authentic Democrat either. They regard him as still being one of us, but doing what he feels that he needs to do to win the office. You have worked with him in the past. What's your read on where he is politically right now?
I think he's a man on an island by himself. You hit it on the head. The powerful union interests in the state of California don't like him because he's not a shill for them and he doesn't need their money. So those blocks aren't with him. If you're a true, authentic blue Democrat, you see through. You don't like the idea that this guy's re-registered. He was a lifelong Republican and donor, then went, no party preference, and then right before he ran, he switched to Democrats. So they don't believe that the virtue signaling he's done is authentic. And then he's kind of left without a home because in the modern Democratic Party, John, they hate successful capitalists. They begrudge them. They want to redistribute them. They want to outlaw them. And Caruso's not, so his identity, also as a straight white male, is not something that he can really run on. So he's kind of a man on an island. With that said, John, California's in crisis. Even Democrats are unhappy with the direction of California under Democratic leadership. And I think Caruso can make a good argument that he's a competent leader that can be trusted in an executive position to redirect the state. I'm just not so certain when the number one thing Democrats say that they want in their Democratic elected officials are authentism and fighting Trump. I'm not sure that Rick fits in with that mold in a state as blue as California.
How about Katie Porter? Do you think she's done? And I say that knowing that she's trying to rehabilitate her image as a nasty woman. So she did her mea culpa interview and then went away for a while. But she's back up on social media yesterday cursing at Tom Steyer, who just entered the race.
I think she's pretty cooked because even if she could lay low, she's now screwed because, first of all, she is nasty. I mean, that's just who she is. And this is a high-profile enough race, and there's enough stress that will be on her in this race that if she snaps at one volunteer, one member of the media, one opponent in a debate, it will reconfirm what voters' suspicions are of her, that she doesn't have the temperament to be trusted as governor. So, and yet there's also so many Democrats in the state of California that don't really have a solid understanding of Katie, and their first taste of her was the temperament issue. I think she can't be counted out because she's got name ID, which is, you have table stakes in a race this big. But I think she just ends up slowly simmering away. And the simmering and the falling in the polls is only going to exacerbate her natural tendencies, which is to bite people's heads off, which will reinforce people's concerns about her.
John Thomas, Republican political strategist who you can follow on X at The Thomas Guide. John, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks again, John.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you were to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube because we have all the episodes up there. You can get the free KABC app. You can get the free KSFO app. You can get the KMJ Now app because we do an hour of that Saturdays at 2 in the Central Valley. There are so many different ways to listen live to all our radio stations and download all the podcasts.
Questions?
It's now time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
I know.
We couldn't make this stuff up if we tried.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
It's the California Crime Blotter.
And Randy, the first edition involves a story you referenced earlier in the show.
A neighborhood in the North San Fernando Valley has no internet, and they've had no internet for 2 weeks. Why? Copper wire theft. That's why. For more, here is Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
Now, 5, a San Fernando Valley neighborhood has been without internet and phone service for 2 weeks.
I don't know if I can make it.
Yeah, what do you do if you live in that neighborhood? Use 2 cans and a string?
I don't know if I could go without the internet for 2 whole weeks. That's sad, but I think it's true.
Families disconnected and frustrated that we welcome you to the Fox 11 News at 5 simulcast on our sister station, Fox 11 Plus. I'm Christine Devine. The outage is reportedly due to copper theft, a crime trend Fox 11's been tracking for months. Nick Garcia, live in Chatsworth with one family's frustration over this. A story you'll see only on Fox 11. I can only imagine. Nick?
I wonder how many of the people the reporter talked to were like, can I just borrow your phone for a minute so I can check Facebook?
You know what's going to happen. Now that this entire neighborhood has gone without the internet for this long, if they catch someone stealing copper wire, I hope that guy has a will.
Right. Hey, Christine. Well, several blocks, mostly northwest of Lassen Street and Corbin Avenue here in Chatsworth, have been without internet for weeks. One customer so fed up with the lack of response from AT&T, he called us. Take a look.
And, you know, it's not just recreational. There's plenty of people that work either full-time or part-time remotely. Now you can't work from your house.
Well, and also, now that we live in the technology era, at my home, for example, the AC is controlled by the internet. The pool and the hot tub is controlled by the internet. Everything electronic is controlled by the internet. The televisions.
So the server's been out for 2 months. Get these red blinking lights. That's it.
Michael Updegraff.
How many times do you think that guy has unplugged and plugged back in the router over the last 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah. Well, how many times has someone in India told him to do it?
That's it.
Michael Updegraff says he has been disconnected for 2 weeks. That's when his family lost AT&T home phone and internet service.
My wife was working from home, called me, hey, there's no internet. Can I reset the router? So we tried all the usual steps. To no avail, nothing seemed to work.
When the
Joke's on you.
He was tech support.
When the reset didn't work, he checked the AT&T app and found his house was part of a major outage, but with few more details.
About a week ago, there was an AT&T field tech that was in a truck up the street. Talked to him for a minute, and he said that somebody had gotten into one of AT&T's vaults, cut out some cable. So obviously that's where the problem lies.
And since we won't punish anyone in the state of California, the moment they fix it, they'll do it again.
This is the most insane kind of crime because the amount of money that was obtained for that stolen copper wire was maybe $50, $100, and the amount of damage and the amount of money AT&T is going to have to spend to fix it and all the hardship of all of the customers is in the millions.
And if and when they ever catch this guy, it's going to be a minor crime because they're going to say, okay, he stole something valued at $50. So that's a misdemeanor.
LAPD says cables and copper wires like those used by cable and internet providers are a hot target for thieves. As we've reported, the theft continues to be a major issue across LA County.
I get if the whole thing about somebody cut the cable out, that's not AT&T's fault. I get it. People do bad stuff. My problem is their communication or lack of. Because
Yeah, they don't want to tell you that it was the catalytic converters in the copper.
Well, it puts them in a no-win situation because they know if they go and they fix it, it's just going to be stolen again. And they know that if they start going after the person who stole it, the political will in the neighborhood is to come down on AT&T for being politically opposed to where we are as a state. It's a no-win situation.
You know, if I was Elon, I'd take a story like this and start dropping leaflets that, hey, get Starlink.
A case could be made.
Because I haven't gotten an email from them. I haven't gotten a text from them.
Meanwhile, Michael's wife can't work from home. His daughter can't do any schoolwork online. And aside from being disconnected from the internet, they're feeling left in the dark.
They have to actually talk to each other, and that's not going to go well.
Well, that's also a thing. I forgot to even mention this. When you and I went to school, you'd write a paper, you'd print it out at home, and then you'd bring it in and turn it into the professor, the teacher, whatever. Now, you talk to kids who are in school, it's all online. You don't print out a copy of the essay for the teacher. You email it to the teacher. Everything is done over the computer.
No school for her.
Feels like for a communication company, nobody's communicating.
Now, of course, we reached out to AT&T asking for answers ourselves. We got a statement from a spokesperson saying, quote, "We're working to restore home phone and internet service to customers in Southeast Chatsworth."
Are they getting billed for this month?
Probably.
Following a recent act of copper theft, we're actively working with local law enforcement as they are investigating to find those responsible. AT&T not able to tell us when they expect the internet and home phone, the landline services, to be restored here, but did say...
I can actually answer that question. The internet is turned back on as soon as you move to Orange County.
Here in California, the company's offering a reward of up to $20,000 for detailed and specific information leading to the arrest and conviction of copper wire thieves.
Well, you have to get all the way to the conviction to get that 20 grand, so good luck.
Yeah, but conviction for what? A misdemeanor? It's not like they're going to throw the book at someone for this because whoever did it, you know, is a crackhead. And they're going to be a crackhead with a history, a criminal history that goes on like a CVS receipt. But they're going to say, their attorney will, I should say, oh, this is only a minor crime. It's not like they stole someone's car. It's not like they stole valuable jewels. They stole something that has relatively little value.
Also adding anybody who sees suspicious activity around copper wires should contact local law enforcement. For now, live in Chatsworth, I'm Nick Garcia, Fox 11 News.
We have covered these copper thefts. Makes me wonder how bad it can get. All right, Nick, thanks.
There you go. A neighborhood in the San Fernando Valley without internet for 2 weeks because of copper wire thieving.
And you think about the collateral damage here. If you are a boss and you let the employee work from home and they can't perform their duties because they have no internet, either that employee is going to get in trouble for failing to perform, or if you have sympathy for them that they live in a neighborhood that is so unsafe and crime is so tolerated that there's no internet because of the copper wire theft, maybe you'll say to that employee, you know what, this working from home thing just isn't working out. You need to sit in traffic again.
That's the cruelest of all the fates.
But people's lives are being impacted by this, and no one seems to care. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Jeff in San Jose. Jeff, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So I'm a contractor, and I was transporting a backhoe down to Morgan Hill, and the guys thought me the wires were hanging low and from the telephone pole. And he had told me that they had climbed up the telephone pole and stole stuff from the telephone pole, and then they left the cable hanging down. So I go down to Morgan Hills, about 10 more minutes, drop off my tractor for my guys, turn around and come back the other way. One of the tree trimmer guys with the big boom truck with the lift that goes way up in the tree, he didn't slow down enough when he was going the other way and took out 6 telephone poles. All because some guy wanted.
Oh my!
This is next to Chesbrough Lake on McKee Road. Took out 6 telephone poles because somebody wanted $50 in copper, and they climbed up the telephone pole to get it. And then when they unhooked whatever they got, the cable was hanging down like at 11 feet and not at 15 feet or whatever they hang down at. Yeah.
Do you know how long the telephone service was out in that neighborhood?
No, but they had all the poles up that day because it was like at 7 a.m. They had all new poles, but not all the wires were up. And I don't know what. I'm sure it was cable, internet, AT&T, all the phone lines, because it's the big fat one. It wasn't the, it wasn't the 110. It wasn't the high top. It was the big fat cable, like 4-inch cable. So it's the low voltage cable, TV, whatever, internet. It wasn't the ones on top. But they're climbing up the pole, 75 feet up a pole to steal copper up here.
Nuts. Makes you root for a gust of wind, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, big time, or a tree to fall or something.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. 6 telephone lines that truck took out.
Holy cow.
That truck took out more telephone lines than a certain morning man took out parked cars.
We got to stop referencing that at some point. It was a long time ago.
Let's go to Annie in Santa Clarita. Annie, hello.
Hi, I love you guys. Love your show. Remember a month ago, it was like 100 degrees in the valley? Well, my son went to work that day in the office building, and come to find out there's no air conditioning. So they went on the roof, and all the wires were gone to the air conditioning unit. I don't know what's in those wires, but they were gone.
So everyone just had to sit there and sweat.
Yeah, they had to work all day in 100 degree, and the windows, well, you don't want to open the windows anyhow, but what could they be in the air conditioning wires?
Well, and it could have been worse. You heard about what happened at Oakland's DMV. Someone ripped out the copper wire of the air conditioning unit, and the building flooded and only just reopened after being closed for 5 months.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, this town is crazy, man. It's just full of Looney Tunes.
Thank you for the call. And that DMV looked like the lost city of Atlantis. Let's go to Max in San Francisco. Max, hello.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share the story, guys. I knew a guy from Nepal who moved here to escape the commies. Privately, he told me he hated communism, but he ended up moving to Oakland. That joke was on him. He moved to Oakland when Ron Dellums was mayor, and he got broken into several times, and he just thought he was getting out of the third world to move to Oakland. And so, yeah, the joke is on him.
Poor guy.
Regarding a financial crisis in California, we don't have a financial crisis. We have a grifter crisis. We have a crisis of the unions, and as you know, there is plenty of money here. We're drowning in money, and it's just a slush fund crisis. That's what it is. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Jim in the Bay Area. Jim, hello.
Yeah, how you doing? I was listening to your show today. I listen to it every day. It's great. But you were talking about AT&T and their lack of seeming to help. And I had a story. I recently bought a piece of property up in Lake County, and I have an easement going through my property, which is AT&T's lines. So they're supposed to maintain the easement for their lines. Well, I have a group of large pines that have succumbed to the beetle, and they're ready to fall. And the top one last week. So I called up AT&T to tell them that you're going to lose 2 trees and they're going to take out all your lines. And they sent a guy out, which I was impressed pretty quick. But the guy told me, he said, I'll be honest with you, AT&T is reactive, not proactive. They're not going to take those trees down. They're going to let them fall. Then
and did they let them cut the trees down, or are they going to have to fall?
No, they're going to let them fall and then react to it.
That seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
It is, because it's going to take out everyone's AT&T on that mountain, whoever gets it.
Well, I guess they're not going to reach out and touch anyone.
No. But when you were talking about AT&T, I thought, yeah, that's what all these big corporations do now. They, like PG&E is a perfect example with the fires. They'd rather pay people that are going to come after them later than do what they need to do to prevent them.
You're 100% correct there, sir. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Delano in Rodeo. Delano, hello.
Hello, it's Delano.
Delano, okay. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Thanks for accepting my call. I'm a veteran and retired firefighter up here. And I just want to go back to talking about the affordability and what people have done to get out of that situation. So, I was divorced basically in 2011. And in my situation, I did whatever I could to keep my kids in the home in the school district that they were in. So I sacrificed. I lived in my car. I stayed with relatives. I stayed with friends. I did whatever I could. I budgeted down to, how much I could spend a day while I worked my butt off to get off, to get back on my feet. And in time, as I did odd jobs, I started a business. I did whatever I could to get back on my feet. Now, I've repurchased a home and I'm doing great. And one of the things I tried to do at the time was so that I can have more time with my sons. I had 3 boys to live with me. I did try to go to services, and they told me I made too much money. And I'm like, how am I making too much money when I have none? Because I have to pay child support and spousal support. I have nothing, and I got roadblocked at every step that I took. And in the end, I just, I said, okay, well, you're not going to help me. I'm got to do it myself. And again, I'm eating 1 time a day. I lived off of beans and weenies and rice, and just did whatever I could to scrape and scrap for everything I got. And, in the end, I came out better. My sons saw me struggling like that, and they really, have worked on it, and they won't, have never, even though they've had the opportunity for services, they would not accept any services, seeing how I pushed myself through to, pull myself by the bootstraps.
And let me tell you something, sir. As we get close to the AI revolution and the world that we live in is going to change fundamentally, it sounds like you were able to hit the curveball. It sounds like you're able to adapt to a changing world around you. And all of us are going to have to do that to some degree or another to survive what's coming. And I think you're better for it. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.